very interesting company whose name continues to fascinate me called Velai SMS. So I'm sure we'll hear from him.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I think to start with, I have to share a few things. When I was given an opportunity by a few people known to us, like Pooja and Sid, who said, can you come and present here? I said, what is this whole conference about? It's about skill. And I was wondering, what do we do about skill? We have something very different. We don't do anything in skill. And as we started thinking, we'll talk about, what segment we address. One of the fundamental things we realized that for someone to have incentive to develop a skill, he needs an information which is what am I going to get out of it if I invest in that skill development. So we realized we were in the business of providing that information. But that was too complex. I was here on the first day, inaugural day, and there was one of the speakers, and he said that all the skill development companies which are there, and many of us are here, you guys are refineries. There is a crude resource available, and you can refine them and build them. And that's when I realized we actually are the builders or plumbers, and we build pipelines. So what is this whole pipeline and plumbing is what I'm going to talk about. But here is the first part of it. One of the things that is very close to me and to many of us who work together is that India is growing. There was this whole thing about India shining and someone lost election. But India is all about doing good, and we are leveraging. I live in US. I get the incentive of the benefit of being from India. But whenever I used to come back for getting clients who will fly down and we'll travel, make them along, we'll see people all the way. And I would realize that they don't have the same Blackberries, or they don't have the same iPhones, or they don't know what internet is. And they are not getting the advantage of what technology is providing, or what we as Indians are providing technology solution to the whole world. So there was this whole contrast that I was struggling and living with. And then someday it was decided that it's high time that we do something. And that's how this whole journey started. Now, I'm not an expert of skill development or all these things, but there are some experiences that we have gained over the last few months. And this session for me is to more of sharing those experiences. And one of the things which is like how Ganesh was saying, the name fascinates. We call ourselves Velai SMS, and you'll not be able to read if you don't know Tamil. That's the interpretation. Velai means jobs in Tamil. So we'll talk about why we did and how we did that. So again, coming back to where we started the conversation from. First thing, I always used to wonder, there is this beautiful thing called Google, but why is it not available to all the masses of India? And then I started to realize that there is another country in our country, and that is more known as Bharat. It's in India we live, but it's the Bharat that drives our country. And that Bharat is where this 250 million underserved, underpenetrated, that's a majority of the unorganized sector, and that's the sector which is actually not able to leverage the technology. As well as they're not able to leverage, they're also not having incentive to develop their skills. So we started looking at, what is that we can do, because we understood how to do the plumbing and, writing codes. And we realized that in given time that I can foresee, I don't think so there'll be any device that will be available in $20 or less. This is a phone of Nokia, and it does everything that one wants. And it's like 1,000 rupees, $20. I don't think so computer would become $20 in forthcoming time. There are projects $100 computer. But would this phone be available, or will computer be available at that degree? We all know in India you get this lifetime incoming, free at $1. Will someone have internet broadband available at that level? So when these things are happening on one hand, we started recognizing that the current models or the current frameworks that we think on perhaps needs to be reevaluated. And what we have to look at is that, can we move away from thinking digital world being TV, which is a broadcast system, and can we take them to the internet type subscribed world, and can we build such models, and can we build such frameworks? And that's where our journey started to get more and more clearer about what we wanted to do. And one of the things that started to hit us very strongly is that we cannot have India shining when Bharat is not taking the advantage of it. This whole thing about growth, unless it is inclusive, I don't think so it will be the most productive or the most peaceful nation as we are, with whatever problems we say we have, but I think we are very, very peaceful, very tolerant nation. If one part of the society gets the benefit of whatever the technology or other revolutions are happening and the other get deprived, I don't think so we'll have a society which is as peaceful it is. So there was this need, or there was a thought that we all felt that whatever we do has to be towards the inclusive growth. And that's how we landed up in some other numbers which kind of gave us more direction. Now, these are data that I have collected over the internet, and this is the foundation of our learning. And I'm sure there are a lot more numbers, but this is what we learned. That in 2001, the population of India was around 1.2 billion. 72% of that was in rural, and I'm sure it is a lot more, or plus minus. 400 million of which is working population in various kinds of work occupation, of which 30% of the population, 300 million, is in rural India, and they have some kind of work to do. That's one part. Second is, this internet is a beautiful thing, and I cannot live without it. But in India, there are only somewhere around 57 million people who have access to internet. And this is data that was published by IMAI. But on the other hand, mobile penetration today in India is almost 420 million. And of which 26%, which is 100 million, already have access to this $20 device. So it kind of gave us perspective that we have to build something which leverages the infrastructure that is available. Now, once we understood that we wanted to use technology and we wanted to use mobile as a platform, we started looking at what is the service that we build out of it. Our intent was not to come here and present about skill. When we were forming a company is hardly 6 months old. One of the things we said is, why don't we build a job search? And then the question came, why job search? What we learned out of our experience meeting people and hearing them is that is the access of information which is power, and it's not the money in the bank or the assets that you build. It is access to information. And for a guy who lives his life in less than $100, for him, what more is important than getting information about job? And then, if you have access to job, when I was studying, I did not know that I can go to US or earn more money. I didn't think I would have had any incentive to study harder than I would. So is getting information on jobs not a critical motivator for him to develop the skills? And if it is, then why not get involved with that person where he is unskilled, wherever, 8th grade pass or 8th standard or 10th standard, wherever that person is, why not get involved with that person? Provide relevant information about where are jobs available. We all hear about demand industry. We are going through the pain of figuring out what is the demand pattern. There's no benchmark, there's no data available. So how do we go from associating ourselves with that person who is unskilled? And as we are providing relevant information about where is the next day job available, why don't we move him or her towards what are semi-skilled jobs available, and then be with the life cycle of the relationship. There are many people who will build competency along with him or her, but I think we can still remain in the business of plumbing and pipeline of providing the information. So now let's look at this a little deeper. And I'm sure whatever I'm sharing is not a surprise to people who travel in India or live in India, but some of them was very effective for me when I learned. If you look at job search in India, the options for urban, English familiar, internet enabled, there are job boards, there are professional and social networking sites, there are consultancies, there is placements. What about the guy who's in Bharat, who's rural, who understands